Hello all you arrow-filled Whiterun guards, as always I am Cosmic, and today we're going to be previewing The Elder Scrolls Legends, which is a collectible card game developed by Direwolf Digital and published by Bethesda Softworks. Now the game is scheduled to release later on this year on mobile iOS and PC, and the game was first revealed back in 2015's E3, and it was revealed to a little bit of skepticism, I would say, overall with the visuals of the game, and the game has just reached open beta, so I thought now is the perfect time to give it a preview. Those of you who know me know that I am very partial to a CCG, and that a particularly good one. I'm a big fan of Hearthstone. I play Hearthstone all the time, which is why I never make videos of it, because it is my stress eater. When I feel stressed, I go and play Hearthstone, and it is fun for me rather than work, so I don't make videos on it. Elder Scrolls, I was interested to see how they were going to implement the Elder Scrolls lore in the game and how they were going to make the game different to the likes of Hearthstone, which is highly successful, because you don't want just another Hearthstone clone, another Magic clone, otherwise it gets very, very boring. Now, the game, as you would expect, revolves around turn-based matches between two opponents. The cards in the game, they look really nice. I really like the art on the actual cards. I think they look really great. They're not as standout as something like Hearthstone, where it has its borders. The cards are very streamlined and slim, so you just have the card art and you don't really have much going on around the card. The cards themselves, from what I've seen thus far, they're all based on the various creatures, characters, and bits and pieces of lore found in the Elder Scrolls games, which is a lot of fun. I have to say that it is very similar in design to Hearthstone, the entire game, and that is to be expected. It's a CCG game. It's based on mana, which in Legends is called Magicka, as you would expect. And it plays very similar to Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering, etc., etc., but with a few twists and turns along the way to make it its own, which I really liked. Now, the first major difference, I have to say, is lanes. This is probably the standout feature of Legends and makes it so much different from a gameplay perspective than that of Hearthstone. So in Legends you have two lanes. Now so instead of just placing your minions down on a board and then the enemy being able to attack whatever minions you place down, you have essentially two different lanes, and you can place minions into each lane. Now, depending on which lane you place them in, you can only attack other minions in that lane, which sounds strange from the most part when you first get into it and you're like, why have they done this? But when you actually play the game, you actually see some interesting mechanics and some interesting gameplay styles form. So what happens is that if your enemy is going heavy on the left-hand lane, they have a really heavy guard and they have some really strong minions on there. What it means is you can then employ a gameplay style where you put your really high attack minions in the other lane where they are weak, so you can get directly to the player's health. And it also means that you can then put all your guards to negate damage from his high-powered cards in the left-hand lane. So it means that you can play two lanes, and it allows you to really adapt and create new gameplay styles, new tactics. And it also allows, and what I've seen, which is really interesting, is it also allows you to have some pretty impressive comebacks in ways that you would not normally have in other games of this type. In games such as Hearthstone, when you are getting absolutely steamrolled, and there's no real coming back from that other than a few plays if you have the right deck. In this case, you actually have more tactics available to you, more strategies available to you. And on the plus side of the lane system is that lanes aren't just lanes for the sake of being lanes. Lanes also have their own unique mechanics. So maybe one lane allows you to have a special mechanic that for the first turn when you place a minion down, they go into stealth mode. Or there is an interesting one in the story mode where their setting is on a pirate ship, so there's winds blowing, the sea gusts are blowing, and it actually will randomly move a minion from one lane to another. It also allows cards to have their own specific mechanics that relate to the lanes, so that, for example, one of my favorite cards is a guard card, which is essentially a Hearthstone taunt, And what that will do is if you have more health than your opponent and you place that guard down, it will summon an exact copy of that minion into a second lane. And there's loads of cards that do this, and it's a lot of fun, and it means that you can really switch up and allow some really fun tactics and really fun strategies. One of the other interesting mechanics of Legends is directly related to players' health. So you start off with 30 health and it goes down and down and down, but instead of just going down and you attacking an enemy and taking their health down, every 5 health you have essentially a rune system. So every rune equates to 5 health, and as you chip away at your enemy's health, as soon as that breaks a rune for every 5 health, they gain a card, and so do you if they do it to you. And it allows players who are getting beat to draw more cards and be able to, put up a fair fight. And it adds a nice little tactical depth to the game that I haven't really seen before. The last major difference in terms of mechanics from something like Hearthstone is the decks themselves. Now in Hearthstone, your decks are set to 30 cards. In Elder Scrolls Legends, your card decks can range from 50 to 70 cards, which is a lot of cards. But it's fun in the sense that it gives you a lot of variety, and it works really well with the pace of the game. I would say that it's no more slower or fast-paced than something like Hearthstone in terms of the length of matches. I would say, however, that you draw a lot more cards a lot more faster than you do in something like Hearthstone. Now, like I say, I really enjoyed the card's visual art style. I really enjoyed the card graphics and everything like that. The Battleground graphics, there's only one, which is essentially you play your card game on top of an Elder Scroll, which is okay. It makes the whole experience a little bit bland now and again. I think that it would be more fun if they added some variety to the battlegrounds and the backgrounds. I really like the fact that Hearthstone has interactive backgrounds, so you can click on stuff, and it's not a big necessity and it's not a big deal in any way, but it's just a small touch that would have been nice here. And I think it would have been interesting to just do something with the backgrounds, just a little bit fun, even just add, some lore items or, some jokes in there. And I think that would have been a nice addition, because otherwise it is very brown, the background with the Elder Scroll. And while you can click on the Elder Scroll and make the actual lettering appear, it still is a little bit brown and a little bit bland. Cards themselves, when it comes down to mechanics, work very similar to other games in the genre. They have a variety of effects, so you have your, summon effects, which is essentially Hearthstone's battle cry. You have prophecy, which means you can use that card if you draw it and lose a rune, and you have you have death rattle. Essentially, you have all the things that you would come to expect from card abilities. You have a multitude of items available to you, and ultimately it is something that is a lot of fun. It looks like it's been designed very well. I've yet to see what the endgame meta is for. I like the fact that some cards can be upgraded, so as you level up your character you can get card upgrades as a reward, so which essentially changes one card to a better card, and you usually have a choice of upgrading it into 2 versions of that card. Usually it does something, maybe it adds a card effect, or it changes the card completely from a creature to maybe an equipment piece, and that is a lot of fun. The progression system itself works really well. I like that you receive regular rewards, and every time you level up you get more cards and something interesting. I really like that, and I think overall this is going to be a lot of fun. I think that there is a sense of quality overall about the game. It's going to be something that Hearthstone players, Magic the Gathering players, CCG players in general are going to really enjoy. I like the fact that even though the endgame meta hasn't fully been established yet, I like the fact that even in ranked play, even when I'm facing someone who's maybe 2 ranks higher than me, I always feel competitive. I never feel like their deck is completely supreme to mine. It always feels competitive. It always feels like I've got options, even if perhaps they have some better cards than I do. I always feel like I've got options in some regard, and that is a massive feat in and of itself, essentially, especially for a CCG. It's very rare that you have a CCG that you feel competitive at, even at a low level, even without having a lot of the cards, and it's very rare to have a CCG that is so open without, having those one or two essentially meta decks that are going to beat everything. And no doubt that will come along at some point, and it's something that the developers will have to address. But for the time being, it seems that it's fairly competitive, it's fairly open, there's a lot of tactics, there's a lot of depth to the game, and it's something that I personally was surprised at. And I think the little things like the lane system and the rune system, I think, work really well and just add little nice touches here and there to the overall feel of the game. One of the biggest selling points of the game is, of course, the single player story mode, which I've played a couple of acts of now and I think works really well. It's fully voiced, it looks fantastic, it plays fantastic, there's a lot of fun mechanics in there, and it was a very enjoyable experience. And I have to say that coupled with the in-game mechanics and the systems that they have in place, they certainly have potential to give Hearthstone a run for its money should it pick up the player base. And I think that it could do that well in the future if it really pulls out the stops and does some really good expansion packs, etc. Then there's no reason why Elder Scrolls Legends couldn't be a game that has a hell of a lot of longevity to it. And that's the preview for Elder Scrolls Legends. Thank you so much for watching and listening. As always, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the game, and I will see you next time.